Going live. Hey, hello everyone. Hello Michael. You win the prize this afternoon for jumping on chat first. Lovely to see you. It is so cold. Lucky for me, Richard's lit me a lovely. Hang on, can you see the fire? Hang on. There we go. Lovely fire. There we go. Lovely crackling fire. And I've got my nice warm fluffy jumper on. Head's a bit cold. That's all right. Hello, Peter and Karen. Your pizza looks delicious. Craig, homemade sausage rolls, perfect. Perfect match. Well done. Kay, what have you got? Barbecue pizza and Mediterranean pizzas from Turkish Light. Very good. And Kay, you win the prize for being the first to book into the lunch on the 17th of September. So well done. Hello, David. Hello, Craig. I've already said hello to. And hello, Sarah and all the tricks. And Fiona, lazy person pizza from the local. Very good. Hello, Anne. Oh, lots of pepperoni pizzas tonight. Fiona's got porcini and prosciutto. I still haven't worked out how to get rid of the stupid heart thing on the bottom of the chat, and it gets in the way of some of my little things that people are saying. But I will continue on despite all of that. How are we all, apart from being a bit cold? It's nice to have all the gang back together again. Hello, Jeremy. How nice to see you. I wish I had a pepperoni pizza as well. I, as usual, don't have any snacks, but I do have a bottle of wine, so that is a good start. We've got the Moorooduc Estate Magic Stalks Shiraz 2020. So this is, Jeremy, this is the first Magic Stalks Shiraz we made, isn't it? The 2020. I have a feeling that is the case, and we released it originally with my beautiful handwritten label. Some of you who've been doing Drinks with Kate for a long time will remember that handwritten label that we stuck on the first few bottles of Magic Stalks Shiraz. We thought it was such a great. Thank you, Jeremy. I thought I was correct. It was such a great idea to just kind of get down on the label all of what we'd done to this wine, that's what we did when we decided to actually make a proper printed label for it. So we'll talk through what makes this wine magic and what's magic about the stalks in a moment. But I think probably the most important thing is to get some in a glass. Hello, Rob and Deb. How you going? Good to see you. I hear that you had a nice film night last night. I've got socks. Sorry, socks. What? Socks on. I don't think I said I had socks on. What did I say? I don't even know what I'm saying at the moment. Hello, Nina. How you going? Good to see you. Has Peter got home yet? He raced off to try and get home in time for Drinks with Kate at home tonight, which would be a nice thing. So the main glass. Oh, yes, the label. Thank you, Michael. Yes, we had our socks on to keep the wine clean. It is aging really well. So this is why I wanted us to drink this wine together. We had 4 dozen, I think, left. And I thought, well, rather than just letting it sort of trickle out off the shelves, let's drink it with the gang who tasted it first when we first released it. So I'm going to put mine into a decanter first. My decanter's a little bit steamy still because it was a bit dirty when I found it in the glass room, so I had to give it a quick wash. So let's pop that in the decanter first. With a youngish wine like this, it's 2020, so it certainly doesn't have a lot of age on it. You can just decant that quite roughly. What we're trying to do is get some air into it. So you can see there's a bit of bubble on the top, bit of froth and bubble on the top. Just getting some air into it, because Shiraz particularly has a tendency when it's in the bottle just to get a little closed in on itself, sometimes a little bit reductive. So a bit of air just to wake it up before you put it in the glass is a good idea, I think, with most Shirazes, and certainly a young one like this. Shell, hello. What have you got? Chickpea, red pepper and tomato stew. Yum, with mozzarella on. Oh, yum, sourdough. Sounds awesome. Sounds very similar to what I'll be having for dinner tonight when I get home. So I have a Magnum glass, which these are the glasses that you taste wine out of when you come to our cellar door. They're a glass that Riedel has sort of designated just to cellar doors these days. So yeah, it's not a glass that you'll find in the shops, but it's quite a nice sort of a mini version of the Riedel. Now I can't remember if this is the Cabernet or the Shiraz glass, but if you have a look, it's sort of a little bit shorter, but it's got almost exactly the same bowl. The bowl here is just a little bit wider at the bottom, but very similar. This is a big glass, and I think if you've got a Cabernet or a Shiraz glass, I don't think it actually makes a huge difference between the two. I know there'll be a lot of people who'll disagree with me, but that's a big glass, so it's nearly the size of my head, not quite. But when you're using a big glass like this, you only need to put a little puddle of wine in the bottom. Otherwise, you'll find that you don't get very many glasses out of a bottle. So we'll give it a little swirl. It's got that lovely kind of, it's got that lovely Shiraz colour to it. It's deep, dark. It used to be purple. It's starting to go a little bit ruby, I reckon, now, but there's a little bit of blue still in there because it's still young. It's gorgeous. On the nose, more traditional Shiraz flavours now with that slight candy flavour, really yummy. I think so too, Craig. What's David got? Pizza, buffalo, mozzarella, eggplant, hot surpresa, and fresh basil. How delicious. Yum. That sounds awesome. So it's our Shirazi Shiraz. It is. So I think, Craig, since we tasted it two years ago, was it? It was 2021, I think, or was it late 2020 that we released it to you guys? Anyway, I think it was early 2021. I can't remember. Such a long time ago. Kay will be able to tell me in probably about 30 seconds. Although it's quite a few pages to go back on in your book. But Alison and Andrew and Sheena, hi, how you going? And Craig, I forgot to say hello to Joan and to Karen. So hello, Joan and Karen. Lovely to see you guys. Jackie, what are you having? Cheeses and good bread. Ah, cool. The nose is gorgeous. It is still super approachable. I actually think this wine, I like it better now that it's had that little bit of bottle. Rob and Deb are agreeing with me. It's drinking so much better now. It's just kind of settled down, and wines are now pre and post-COVID. Years don't matter. Exactly. April 21, 2022. Thank you, Kay. Was that the 2020? I'm sure we looked at it before that because I reckon it was during lockdown when we did it first of all. But anyway, doesn't really matter. I remember handwriting that label. Anyway, I think with that little bit of extra bottle age, it's really come into its own, and it's a shame that. So just for those of you who haven't met this wine before, because there are a few newcomers to Drinks with Kate this year. This wine is, let's come back to this wine in 2026. I'd love to, Jeremy, but we've just sold all but the last half a dozen, I think, in this. We've got, Leonie's got a little tiny stash in the cellar door. So if anyone's wanting to grab another bottle, then you'll have to go into the Lucky Dip, I think, to see if you can get another bottle from Leonie. But yeah, we're down to the very last of this now. Jeremy's hidden a few cases. He possibly has, actually, because this is Jeremy's experimental wine. So let me give you a little rundown, and then we'll talk about what it's smelling and tasting like. Because I think you're right, Alison. I'm getting, those aniseed balls that are really hard and that you kind of suck on, and they're they've got a slight medicinal character to them, but it's more kind of confectionery, kind of spicy lolly kind of aromas. I bet it is going well with an aged cheddar. It would be beautiful. So Peter, handwritten label. It wasn't 2019. It was 20. I'm pretty sure it was the 2020 because I think Jeremy and I are agreeing that this is the first Magic Stalks Shiraz we made in 2020. So it didn't have a name. That's right, Kay. It didn't have a name, and we asked you guys for some ideas, and then we came up with Magic Stalks all by ourselves. It was very mean of us, wasn't it? Anyway, so 1 barrel was made of this wine, which means a whole 24 dozen went into bottle. It's fruit from the Osborne vineyard, which is a vineyard that we've been taking fruit from for a long time. A lot of that fruit goes into the Devil Bean Creek wine and sometimes into the estate wine. We don't make a single vineyard Osborne, Pinot Noir or Chardonnay. And the Shiraz was, Pete's sending me text now with Peter's right, Jeremy. 2019 Moorooduc Estate Experimental Shiraz. Peter's just sent me photographic evidence of the label. So I take it all back, Peter, you're correct. 2019 was the first one we made that we tasted on the 20th of August, 2020. There you go. Excellent. Thank you, Kay. Pete's just sent me, I don't know, you probably won't be able to see this, but that's terrible. Hang on. No, that's not going to work at all, is it? Anyway, you'll have to just trust me. That photograph that Pete sent me of the bottle with the handwritten label, with all of the information on it, and we did have our socks on, Michael, for the 2019 as well. We're very, very hygienic here at Moorooduc Estate when it comes to. Actually, I don't know if we did. Who knows? So this is Jeremy's experimental wine, and the reason that we make a little tiny bit of Shiraz from the Osborne vineyard in this way is partly because we had this little bit of Shiraz that we've always been talking about turning, grafting those Shiraz vines over to Pinot Noir vines. And every year, Richard and Jeremy ran out of time during the grafting season, which is winter, because that's also pruning season. And Dad was also grafting other vines. So it was all a big sort of lots of graft and corruption going on here. So never got around to doing that grafting of the vines across to Pinot Noir. And then in 2018, Jeremy said, why don't we just leave it as Shiraz and have a play and make an experimental wine with it? And so we did in 2019. And this is the wine that resulted. And what we wanted to, so I'm speaking a little bit for Jeremy, so if he's still on and he wants to type some things to correct me or add to the story, please do, Jeremy. Otherwise, I'll give you my version of the story. Michael is also doing it with cheddar and jats. Yes, I was thinking jats when I was saying, all crunchy biscuits. I think crunchy biscuits are important with a wine like this. I don't know why, but it just really made me want to make a socks off. Pinot Gris goes really well with old cheddar. Thank you, Craig. I can always count on you to be classy. So Jeremy and Richard had been talking to other winemakers who'd been playing around with whole bunch ferments, and Simon Black at Montalto had experimented with starting a whole bunch ferment, but then de-stemming it really early on while the grapes are still fermenting, and to try and get lots of carbonic maceration character in the wine and not so much of the tannins, and certainly not those sort of green stalky tannins. I'm going to throw my glass of wine on my computer in a minute. I just got distracted by Fiona's question. I can't possibly, Jets, Clicks or Ritz, I think they could all work. I personally am a Ritz girl or a Vita Wheat girl, actually. I do like a Vita Wheat with some cheddar with this kind of, but that's another complete biscuit look altogether. So I'm going to go back to the wine now. You guys can debate biscuits down the side of the chat. So yes, so early de-stemming of partially fermented whole bunch ferments to try and retain freshness and brightness and the bubblegummy kind of lolly character, and not that really kind of serious structural tannic thing. So the idea was to make a wine that was perfumed and lifted and crunchy and early drinking and delicious. Uh, there we go. Got the biscuit conversation going now. And I think we've made Magic Stalks now for 4 years, if we made one in 2019. So 2019 with the handwritten label. 2020 we got the official label designed and approved, and it became one of the origami experimental wines. Up until then, we only had one experimental wine, which was the Pinot Gris and Skins. So this was the second one. The third one is the Rough Play Pinot that will come back and help. Its Savoys are good too, Nina. Thank you. But this is the purple origami duck. I think a perfect colour for this wine, because it really, when it first came out, it was super purple. It's starting to just develop a little orange, more sort of red orange tint now with a little bit of bottle age, but it's still pretty deep. To be honest, it's hard in this light. I've got my little round light on, as you can see reflecting in my glasses, but it's still pretty dark and gloomy in here trying to see wine colour. So, but I love the aromas that have developed in this wine. When we first tasted this wine a year ago, let's say, back in August 2022, it was a little more elbowy. It was a little, it was brighter, and it had that sort of crunchy, almost sort of not quite fully ripe plum fruit. You know, when you bite into a crunchy plum rather than a squishy plum, and you get that nice tang, but you also get a bit of kind of bitter tannin from the skins. That it was really coming up with all of that when it was young, and it's just sort of softened out a little bit, and the black peppers come forward. What's Jeremy saying? I super like the fact that the pepper thing's evident. It's not like a normal black pepper, rotundo peppery thing. It's more like pepper that you'd find in a good Chinese dish. White pepper, maybe Szechuan. Jeremy, are you thinking, without that numbing character that Szechuan pepper gives you? But I think that's why I like this wine with kind of with sort of salami kind of flavors, because I think that Szechuan, Craig, that's what I reckon. It's got that kind of lifted floral pepper kind of note to it, whereas I find white pepper's a little bit more dusty in its aroma profile. Anyway, I haven't even tasted it yet. Does it taste any good? I'm just enjoying the smell. I'm loving this big glass. But it's got that red plum fruit. It's got that Szechuan-y kind of character. Yes, definitely tobacco and a little bit of mowed grass. It's just starting to dry out in the sun. So that's that. There's a little bit of that stalk influence there. Yes, I know what you mean, Kate. You're naughty tonight. There you go. On the palate, it's exactly what I was expecting from the nose. It's got that lovely red fruit, red plum tang to it. The peppers coming through. I think it would be amazing. So this is going to sound really. This is one of Kate's weird tasting note characters. That for me, there's something about this wine with its peppery, spicy, plummy, sweet, sour, tangy notes to it that reminds me of really good homemade tomato sauce or plum sauce that you dip your sausages or your sausage rolls in, which is why I think this wine goes so well with sausage rolls. It goes so well with a pizza that's got a tomato base, because it's got a little bit of that kind of sweet, tangy tomatoiness to it, but with the spice and I agree with you, Kay, that tobacco leaf is coming through really nicely with that little bit of bottle age. And I've got snuffly all of a sudden. The cat was very much in love with me this afternoon, so I think he's covered me in cat hair, and my fluffy jumper's probably not helping either. There are tannins there that weren't before. Is it just the sweetness has backed off? I think that's right, Craig. I think that the fruit sweetness has kind of settled down and the tannins have come forward. I don't think there's more tannin. You can just see it more. the tannin structure coming through more, because it's not as in your face with the fruit and the sweetness. Michael, I love your I love your question. Any chance this could be a La Chapelle in 20 years? Well, none of us will know because we've run out of wine. I don't think so. I think, as lovely a wine as this is, I'm not really sure that it would go 20 years, but I think it will probably do some nice things for a little while. I know cats with the extra love. It's like, seriously, go away. I don't really need that sort of love right now. Thank you, cat. It was a bit of a breakthrough because Mum and Dad's cats. I've told you about Mum and Dad's cats before. They were born of a wild cat who still lives out in the winery and won't let anyone touch her. These two cats live in luxury inside, but they're very picky about who gets to touch them when. They're not cuddly cats at all. So to get all that love and purring and kind of extra, rubs and cuddles from Jack, I was like, I don't understand what's going on. But it's all right. All righty. Relish, yes, Fiona, good tomato relish, that sort of oniony, tomatoey, sweet, spicy kind of a character. Jeremy, all that leaf thing, tomato sauce thing, part of us from early picking. Yes, this is the earliest sugar ripe red wine we've done. Question mark, question mark. Really, Jeremy, that's interesting. So it was picked on the 28th of March, which is Dad's birthday. And that is early for Shiraz for us. Craig, I will answer your question in a minute. It's 12.5% alcohol, so it's not a big, full-bodied, high alcohol Shiraz. It's definitely a cool climate Shiraz, but it had beautiful flavour ripeness as well as sugar ripeness. But you're right, Jeremy, it does have that kind of leafy character to it. Richard's wandering around looking. He's got book club later tonight, so I wasn't sure whether he wanted a glass of wine or not. But he's also sneezing. So here's a glass for you, Richard.
Thank you.
And here's a decanter. Jill said she doesn't want any wine tonight, so bad luck her. Jill doesn't really love Shiraz, which is a shame. It's a bit of a shortcoming, but that's okay. Right, Craig, La Chapelle. So La Chapelle is a very famous Syrah from the Northern Rhone. It's made by a producer called Jabelet, and it's a bit of a cult wine. So hi, Richard. Say hi to everyone. Give everyone a wave while you poke the fire. And I think, so I think Michael's really asking is because it's got that kind of leafy, cool climate savouriness and the pepper, that's more kind of Rhone-like than a lot of Australian Shiraz. But also, I think Michael, your question was about whether it's going to get, even better with age, which I'm not sure whether it'll keep getting better with age for 20 years. But or if it does, then it makes it a super awesome bargain, because La Chapelle is these days hundreds of dollars a bottle. So it's one of those cult wines that everyone wants to buy, and there's hardly any of it made. So it's very rare and special. A bit like this. This is very rare and special. We only made one barrel of it, but we kind of didn't price it appropriately for rare and special. Right, Alison, this still feels light on the palate in a good way. That's exactly right. So that's the whole point of this one, picking it early and doing all that sort of working. Hello, Sue and Jeff. That's all right. You're allowed to be so late. You just come when you feel like it. It's easy. We're very relaxed kind of a gang here. You know that. So I struggle to read this type now without taking my glasses off, but I'll give it a go. So I'll look over my glasses. I need to get some bifocals or multifocals or whatever they're called. So here we go. On the 28th of March, it was picked into giant bags and covered in CO2. The reason we did that was if you put it in a giant bag, cover it in CO2 and seal it up, then you will get carbonic maceration. It means that the yeasts can't really proliferate easily. It means that the grapes start breaking down internally, and you get this lovely carbonic maceration, bubblegummy lollipop kind of aromas to it. So we then, on the 7th, so that was 30, it's about 10 days later, we walked on top of it with our socks on and then transferred it to the fruit bin and sealed it with more CO2. Didn't analyse it, but just went by how it smelled, and we thought it smelled pretty delicious on the 9th. So by the 13th, it was actively fermenting, wild on stalks, and so we decided to destem it mid-ferment on the 13th, and on the 18th it was basket pressed and sent to its single barrique and bottled before Christmas. Alison, I know, I'll get there. Peter and Karen are now drinking it with leftover quiche, Lorraine, and it's a good match. I can imagine it would go very nicely with the smoky, bacony character of quiche Lorraine and the cheesiness. So this is the second of our 3 experimental wines. Craig wants to know if we have any new experimental wines coming up. Skin contact Chardonnay, I don't think is going to be a thing at Moorooduc anytime soon, Craig, partly because we can't grow enough Chardonnay. And second of all, I've had a couple of skin contacty Chardonnays, skin contact Chardonnays, and I don't love it. I think it doesn't really do a lot for Chardonnay as a grape variety. Richard and Jeremy and I haven't come up with any new experimental wines that we've discussed. I've mentioned a couple of times I'd quite like to have a play with a late harvest Pinot Gris, but I haven't had any enthusiastic kind of responses from the boys yet. So who knows? I think there's always another question that comes up in our tiny little minds about what happens if we did this, or what would happen if we did that. Sometimes we do experimental wines that don't make the cut, and they get blended back into a Devil Bean Creek, or larger volume where they disappear, or they go down the drain if they're really not nice. We do have we've got a demijohn of Pinot Gris on skins that we did a whole bunch this year, which really, honestly, I hated when it had finished fermenting, and we haven't got rid of it yet because it's been getting better, but it's not even enough to be worth bottling. So it might be something that we maybe have another play with next year, but in the meantime, I think we'll just stick to our 3 successful experimental wines, but you never know, could happen. Kay will make posters, late harvest Pinot Gris, and we'll get a campaign going. Excellent. Peter and Karen, we need something to serve with dessert. Well, that's a little bit controversial because I really am not a big fan of dessert wine with dessert. The sweet wines that I like are sweet wines that work really well with cheese, or that are delicious to have after dessert or instead of dessert. So, and you know that we're incredibly selfish here at Moorooduc. The wines that we make are wines that we want to drink, and we hope that other people do too. So if we can't summon up the enthusiasm to make a wine for something that we love the idea of, then it's probably not going to happen. That said, Dad did make a heavily botrytized Semillon. Was it a Semillon Sauvignon Blanc, Dad? Or was it just Semillon Sauvignon Blanc? He's made a few, actually. I can see his brain going, well, I did make this one, I made that one. We did a late harvest Chardonnay as well once. But we were not encouraged to continue with those wines at the time that we made them, partly because we're not huge fans of sweet wine, unless it's Chateau Yquem or a really beautiful Mosel Trockenbeeren Auslese or something like that, and we don't have the conditions to make those wines here. So That's okay. Rob and Deb, Rob, that feels like a Rob question. I get a bit of a fizz sensation drinking this. Is that a thing? I'm not getting fizziness in this wine, Rob, but or Deb. It might have been Deb who said that. But it's probably got a little bit of dissolved CO2 in it, which if you give it a good shake will kind of come out of it, because most wines have a bit of dissolved CO2 in them when they're first bottled. I think there's a tanginess to it, which is sort of similar to a slight sherbety kind of tingle. Peter says, what about a Shiraz port? Probably not. Again, don't really think that the world needs I don't think the world needs more fortified wines unless they're really great fortified wines. And I don't think that we have the right climate to get even a Shiraz warm enough to make a really delicious fortified Shiraz. So, yeah, I think just sticking to our strengths is what we're probably going to do, rather than just making something for the sake of making it. Ripasso Pinot, Craig, that's a little bit more interesting, but yes, not so sure. Okay, there's a difference between Richard being told that growing Pinot Noir on the peninsula won't work in the 80s and me not wanting to make fortified wine on the peninsula. We know people who've made fortified wine down here, and it was all pretty ordinary. And I just don't. I think it's no. I think it's a no. I think that's a no from us. You never know. We might change our minds. we might go to Rutherglen and drink some good fortified wine up there. Jackie wants to know, have we made the Magic Stalks every year since 2019? We have, actually. So 2019, 2020 we're tasting tonight. The 2021's current release, and the 2022 we tasted at the Magic Stalks Shiraz lunch 2 weekends ago. When was that? It was 2 weekends ago, I think. And the 22, I'm looking forward to putting that in the box sometime soon, because it's a little different. And we made it again in 2023, and I think we made a little bit more. No, we didn't make a bit more. That was the rough play Pinot, I think, that we made a bit more of, because we've only got that. Yeah, we're limited by how much fruit those vines will give us. Anne wants to know, and good question, does Shiraz generally require more heat than Pinot Noir Chardonnay to ripen? It does. It needs a longer ripening period as well. So warm, dry weather for longer for Shiraz. So our Shiraz down here usually ripens about a month to 6 weeks after our Pinot Noir and Chardonnay. So that's sort of the difference. And it's very much a marginal climate for Shiraz here on the Mornington Peninsula. So Jackie, I think that's a good idea to keep a couple of each year for a vertical. I don't know if we've kept enough of the 2020, but if we have got enough, we might just stash that for a little while. But certainly we've learnt a lot about carbonic maceration in the time that we've been doing it. We've learnt that if the carbonic maceration doesn't get warm, then we get less of that carbonic aromatic profile to it, and it's less interesting. So the 22, I think, but certainly the 23, we kept in the bag under CO2 for longer and actually let it get warm. We put it in a warm room. So that was pretty cool. Yep, Rob and Deb, a little bit of dissolved CO2. Yeah, you sense it immediately after pouring, it dissipates quickly. That's another reason, I reckon, for a quick decant before you put it in the glass, because then it just kind of aerates the wine a bit, gets that CO2 out and lets it, because the CO2 will just suppress the aromatic profile of the wine a tiny bit, but it, as you say, it disappears very quickly. I like also that now the wine's the tobacco-y note, and there's also a slight leathery note kind of coming up in the wine as well, which I think is a bit delish. So, God, it's amazing. Dad's stoked the fire and I'm getting really warm. I can see myself going red in the face. I'm just going to take my jumper off, excuse me, for a moment. There we go. Oh, striptease. That's better. Whew. Now I've mucked up my hair. Right, that's better. That's nice. The fire's lovely. It's just, it was a bit, all of a sudden I'm like, why am I getting so hot? And then realised that the fire's gone crazy, which is lovely. As this wine kind of sits in there, and now I've got fluff all over my face from my jumper. I love that jumper, but it's very fluffy. No, Michael, it's not that. Not going through that yet. Don't have hot flushes. It's the hot fire. Look, seriously, look at that. It's enormous. He's just like loaded it up with wood, and it's crackling away like nobody's business. There's a leathery kind of almost dried raspberry kind of a fruit character there. There is a herbal note there too, Kay. Hello, Leonie. Can you do Cab Mac on Pinot? Yes, you can. I'm not sure if we have. Jeremy, are you still there? Hello, Jeremy. I think Jeremy might have gone to cook dinner, but the leather's KO'd all the other flavours, has it, Craig? Have you got more in the decanter or the bottle? Pour a little bit more on top of it, and you get all that lovely sweet tomatoey, relishy, spicy characters coming back up again. David, was that relating back to the comment about Michael's comment about change of life, or what? I think our conversation's getting a little bit convoluted. Oh, you're back, Jeremy. I'm out, but yes, you can. It gets a bit bubblegummy. Pinot Noir, yes, excellent. Thank you. Thanks, David. No, honestly, I don't think I'm there yet, but having a hot jumper on with a hot fire behind me has not helped. Anyway, all good. Let's stop talking about me. Jeremy's out. See you later, Jeremy. Thank you. I think the thing about like a bit of bubblegummy kind of lolly water to like candied lift to Shiraz makes it more approachable, because Shiraz can get a bit kind of heavy and dense and savoury and structured. So doing a carbonic maceration to a wine like this is fantastic. Oh my God, the cat's back, and I think he's in love with me today. Hello, pussycat. But with Pinot Noir, because it's already quite delicate and can be a little bit lolly-ish. Then if you do a carbonic maceration, then that accentuates that character, which can get a bit much. But yes, Kay, it does. It would work very well with the Barbie movie and caramel popcorn, maybe. That's true, Shell. The cat is probably attracted to the warmth. Wants a cuddle. Is the Mac Shiraz the same year in this box? No, it's 2019, Craig. So that'll be interesting. But we will get there eventually. So next week we're actually doing another 2020. We're doing again some of the last of the 2020 Pinot Gris on skins. So that's another origami wine for us next week. So we thought we'd just have a little focus in on some of our experimental wines from 2020. That very straight, and remembering as well, 2020 was quite a cool year down here. Everyone sort of forgets because we had the bushfires leading into Christmas and around New Year. Everyone thinks that 2020 was super hot, and then the pandemic started in March, and everyone kind of lost their minds and forgot anything else to do with the year. But down here was quite cool, and everything was relatively late harvesting. So it was interesting that this Magic Stalks Shiraz that we got it sugar right when we did, and that those flavours are there. Picking it at the end of March is almost early for Shiraz down here. So interesting how that happened with that cooler year. Yeah. So, and you are right, Craig. Pinot Gris on skin is no longer experimental, but because it was the first ever experimental wine, it gets to keep that label, because I think it kind of started a new breed of wine from Moorooduc. So I think that's absolutely right. So yes, 2020 Magic Stalks Shiraz this week, 2020 Pinot Gris on skins next week. And then we're going to look at a couple of 2016s, Estate Pinot Noir and Estate Chardonnay. So that'll be fun. And then we're looking at a couple of new releases. We've got the new Pinot Gris, and I think we've got the new Shiraz in there. And then we've got, do you know what? It's pretty amazing because I never thought this would happen quite so quickly, but we are selling through the last of the 2019 Estate Pinot Noir at the moment. So if you're a fan of the 2019 Estate Pinot Noir and you need a little bit more for your cellar, I would recommend ordering it sooner rather than later. I reckon we'll probably be moving on to the 2020 Estate Pinot Noir in about 6 weeks is my guess, but you just never quite know what's going to happen. So the next box is going to have to have some other new wines as well, which is going to be fun. Oh no, we've got the Robinson 2021 Pinot in this box, so there mustn't be Pinot Gris. Anyway, whatever, we'll get there eventually. I'll look it up before the week starts. But we're definitely doing the Pinot Gris on skins next week. So I reckon, Craig, that's no good. You're gonna miss half of this box. You just got to have a talk to work and say, look, I'm sorry, I can't work on a Thursday night. I can't socialise on a Thursday night. I have to stay home. You can buy another, absolutely, Craig. Yeah, if anyone wants to buy another one of these boxes, I'd get in again fairly quickly because the things like this Shiraz, you're in the US. Oh, well, that's all right. Fair enough. Buy another, take it with you to the US, and then you know you've got at least something nice to drink once a week. I'm not sure whether that's acceptable or not. Anyway, get your Alison. That's what I reckon. He should take the wine with him. But then he needs another box so that there's one for Karen and for Joan. Maybe you need to buy 2 more boxes, Craig. Anyway, yes, you can buy another box. Get that order in, and we'll let you know when we've run out of things like there's only a little bit of the Magic Stalks Shiraz left. There's only a little bit of the Pinot Gris on skins 2020. There's not huge amounts of those 2016 Chardonnay and Pinot Noir. So they're all bits and pieces that we're kind of getting towards the end of, and we just thought it would be nice to share with you guys rather than not. So yeah, jump on that, jump on them while you can. I am going to love you and leave you because I think we've had a lovely session, and I run out of things to say about this about the Shiraz. We will enjoy the cat love while it lasts, although he's wandered off now. He's talking to Richard, but we'll see what happens. It'll be when his sister comes and gives me a cuddle, then I know I've really made it because she's the standoffish one. Thank you, everyone. Glad you're loving the wine. I'm really enjoying it too. I think it was a really good thing to do, to drink it together. I'll see you all again very soon. See you next week. Love you lots. Viva the Magic Stalks. We'll keep doing it. Thank you, everyone. And Jeremy and Leonie, it's lovely to have everyone on the chats. So thank you, everyone. See you soon. Take care. Stay warm.